Hi, welcome. Louis here from Urban Farm Africa. So today we're going to talk a little bit about marketing and sales and entrepreneurship, and more specifically of your farming products. What I'm looking at today is crucial for any subsistence for-profit farmer to keep on scaling their business in a sustainable way. So today's training, we're going to cover module 1 of our Farmer's Edge training manual that looks at sales, marketing, and entrepreneurship. So without further ado, let's jump into our training manual. On our training manual, on page 4, we will start with module 1. In module 1, lesson 1, introduction, understanding the importance of marketing. So it's crucial to market your products. Otherwise, people won't know you farm and or sell that product. So marketing your product specifically in an agriculture environment is such a key component and can be the difference between succeed and fail. So understanding the importance of marketing is crucial because it creates the foundation to ensure that you can build on that foundation a very specific marketing and sales plan to get your produce, to get your livestock to the market at the right time, in the right condition. So before we can trade the produce you grow, you first must market your products. Why is this important? So firstly, you need to have a baseline understanding of your environment. If you're a small scale farmer, what's crucial to understand is that you might not have the logistics to take your product from your farm far away to where you need to sell your product. So it's so crucial to look at what you are farming, okay, in a sense of what people are buying. So when you look at marketing and you look at the market, that will in actual fact determine what you will farm. For example, if you farm chickens and you can sell a live chicken to your neighbor, you'll have zero logistical costs. But if you farm cabbage, you might farm it further out of your communities, and then it needs to travel from farm to your communities, and then there will be logistical costs. So understanding what you can sell close enough, especially in the beginning, is crucial for any small to medium scale farmer. So when marketing your product, page 4, when you market your products, you need to ask the following questions. When should I market my product? Where should I market my product? And how much should I charge for my product? So what does this mean? Let's look at number 1. When should I market my product? So let's take a chicken business, a meat chicken business, a broiler farming business. Think about it. If you're based in South Africa, you're going to have a 6-week growth cycle. If you manage that operationally, effectively, and financially, from day old to 6 weeks, you're going to have a market-ready product. But if your product is ready in the middle of the month, where less of your community have money to spend on your product, you will have to feed your chicken additionally, okay, and it will increase your operational cost. For that reason, you will either have to increase your price and possibly price yourself out to market, or you would have to look at alternatives like culling your chickens and to ensure you keep your produce, your product operational expense low. So for me, what I always advise is when you look at starting a broiler farming cycle, look at the growth cycle. Look at the growth cycle and then start the growth cycle in line with when most of the people in your direct sales environment has the money to spend on your product. This actually is important for any agricultural, especially when you sell a fresh product like a live chicken or a fresh product like cabbage. Okay, where should I market my products? This is also crucial because think about it. You might today, when you're a very small scale poultry farmer, you might have the ability to sell out all of your products, okay, to your immediate and extended neighbors. And that might be easily. But if you grow that farm beyond a certain period, like for example, now you have 1,000 or 2,000 chickens per cycle, you would have to look for alternative bigger markets, or your markets might be between a couple of areas that you market your product in. If you don't do that, operationally, your costs will increase significantly because the chickens will keep on consuming feed, and you would most probably not reinvest in that business. So where you market your product becomes significant, especially when you want to scale and grow your business. How much should I charge for my produce? So generally, it's determined once again by your immediate community. It differs from South Africa to Nigeria, to Namibia, to Botswana, to Zimbabwe, but it also differs within regions of country, like for example in Gauteng, in Limpopo, or in the Northwest. Sometimes what determines the price of your product is really what people are paying for it, and that is influenced by so many factors. For example, like logistical cost. It can be a huge increase in your demand for your product, but also in the price for your product. So if you think about it, if you can get a healthy produce at the right time into the correct market, you will actually be successful as a business. So being an entrepreneur and thinking like that will enable you to not only farm your business successfully, but to also grow your business and scale your business as you grow as a farmer as well. On page 4 still, it's sometimes difficult for a farmer to make these decisions. So those 3 decisions: when, where, and how much. Okay? The farmer must keep a record of the expenditure. So to understand, so firstly, we spoke about it now. So we said your input cost, okay, would most definitely determine the price that you sell at. Okay, but it's not only that will determine the price that you sell at. What will also determine the price that you sell at is, for example, something like the overall market demand of your product, the supply of the product, the shortages of that product, and the average price people are paying for a product at a certain category. Category A being sort of top level, B being medium grade, and then C being lower grade. So those are all different things that you need to take into account. However, you should simplify it by at least keeping record as a baseline when you start in any agricultural business, and then you increase your profitability, your community sales, etc., and you strengthen your sales tactics and strategy throughout your growth of you as a farmer and your business. Okay, if you don't show a profit, it would mean that you'll have to probably close a small scale business. You will not be successful. You won't have the money to restock and reinvest in your business, and ultimately you would give up on your small scale farming. But we don't want you to do that. We want you to really look at it from different perspectives. We look at broiler production once again. If we look at it from an operational and expenditure perspective, we understand that there's huge profits in broiler if we manage it correctly, decrease fatalities, and decrease high operational cost. But on the second side, you also need to understand, how to not only maintain what business you've got, but also put yourself in a position to grow that business. And that you can only do by 100% understanding what you do from a management, operation, and financial perspective, where you can take some risks, where you can grow your flock, but also where you can expand your market into different communities, which is really where you will start to scale and grow your business. Okay, so again, just thinking about lesson 1 here now is to decrease high operational cost, you need to market your product in advance effectively. If you don't do that, and only on the final day of week 6 you start marketing your product, you're already on the back foot, because that means if you can only sell 10 chickens and you've got 100 chickens, it's going to take you 10 days to sell those chickens. So you would in actual fact waste an additional 9 to 10 days of feed that you should have been feeding your small chickens. And that's not something we want. That will definitely be problematic, especially when you want to grow your business. So being an entrepreneur is almost seeing something that people don't, but also making the short-term compromises to ensure that you can grow that business over the longer period. I've worked with many subsistence as well as small for-profit farmers, and with each one of them, it's really that initial sort of motivation that gets people involved, but then it becomes hard work to ensure that you capitalize throughout the supply chain and that you capitalize on where there's high demands for your product, for your product at the right time, at the right place, and at the right price. If we turn to page 5 of our entrepreneurship training manual, then you'll see there at the top it says, what is marketing? So what is marketing of your product? So what does that mean? And why is marketing sales two different elements? So marketing determines what customer wants and sets out to meet their needs, provided it could be done at a profit. Marketing includes market research, deciding on products and prices, advertising, promotions, distributing and selling. Okay, so that is marketing as a whole. So marketing is not necessarily you selling a live chicken to your community. Marketing is the whole package, which includes sales, but marketing starts way before. Sales is one component of marketing. It starts way before. You need to promote your product in advance. You need to package your sales, your marketing tactics in advance. You have to have a marketing strategy. And the actual sale of your product at the end is only the end result of a good marketing strategy. So it's truly important to understand what marketing is. So sales is one component of marketing. At the bottom on page 5, you will see the elements of marketing. Is the product, the price, the promotion, and the place. So those are the 4 P's of marketing. So this is significant in any business, whether it's a commercial business, a for-profit business, a small-scale agricultural business, or even manufacturing. The 4 P's is very important when you think about marketing. So let's look at the first P, product, the item or service you want to sell. So remember, it can be both. So, for example, you might be selling live chickens into your community. That is a product. Or you might be training people in your community to farm chickens, and that is a service. So both those you need to decide on. And that is really determined by the demand in your community for either the product or the service. Because you do want to, especially when you're in the beginning, you want to work in an environment where there's demand for your product. Okay, the price. So we've spoken now a bit on page 4 about price. But price will be very much determined by demand. If there's high demand for a product, you will definitely have an increase in price that you can charge. But generally, looking at poultry businesses, again, if you don't manage high input costs, okay, by having a successful marketing strategy as an entrepreneur, what would happen is you would in actual fact not benefit from that high demand. Okay, but if you manage operationally and financially your broiler business successfully, and you implement a successful marketing strategy using this manual and this video, what in actual fact will happen is you will benefit from the demand in your area for your product or your service. So it's really important. And the way you will benefit, you will be able to charge a higher price, but still have the same operational cost, which means your profit is higher. So that's really crucial to understand within marketing. So it gives you the ability to position your product, but also gives you the ability to benefit from demands of your product in your environment, and that especially with good financial and operational management of your farming enterprise. Okay, promotion. So how do I promote my product? The third P. Okay, the way in which you inform your target market about your product and where they can find it. So now I need to promote it. Remember, you now have a product, you have a price, you need to promote that product. So the way you need to promote that product is very dependent on your area, but here's a couple of tips that works across the various industries, including agriculture. So to promote your product, you need to get people to know that you farm your product. They need to understand the quality of your product, the operation that you have where you grow these vegetables or chickens, where you raise these chickens. They need to understand how healthy your flock is, the biosecurity measures that you are taking, because people want to buy a good, healthy product at an affordable price. So if you've got a good price, you've got a good product, you need to promote this to your target audience, your community. Okay, so you need to go to funerals. Churches can be something else. You can use WhatsApp stories. You can use Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and various other platforms. What is important that people should know that you are farming. People should know the quality of your product. People should know when they can buy your product way in advance before your product is ready. So when a first time buyer comes to you, they're going to look at your price, they're going to look at your product, they're going to look at your quality, and you've promoted and now they come and buy. They would again come back for your quality, your price, and your product. But you need to ensure that you promote it in your area effectively. Something that you can also consider is to have a showcase. If you're a new farmer or you've just sort of expanded your farm, to do sort of a small launch where you invite community members to get to see your poultry enterprise, to see your vegetable enterprise, to become part of your journey as a farmer and the place. So where do I go with my product? So a small example. So let's take Botshabelo in the Free State. So Botshabelo in the Free State will have a ceiling to its capacity for live chickens. So let me give you a better understanding. So let's say today somebody farms 1,000 chickens a cycle in Botshabelo, okay, and they sell it at 120 rand. And because there's high demand, okay, they manage their operation successfully, okay, and they make a profit, and they've been building their business. Tomorrow, a larger scale producer comes into the same environment, into the same sort of sales community, selling 5,000 chickens. There will be competition and the demand will lower. So your price will be lower. Okay, so then you really need to look at alternative marketing strategies to possibly move your product to a different place, which is the fourth P. So, and that same thing is when you scale your business. So let's say today you can sell 100 chickens every 6 weeks and you scale it to 150 to 180 to 200 and more. Once you get to a point of selling, of farming 1,000 or 2,000 chickens, it's completely different. You won't be able to sell them in your immediate market to your neighbor and your extended neighbors anymore. You would have to go and look for bigger markets. Like the people in Botshabelo, they go and look for markets at the first biggest town, which is Bloemfontein. Where people are more urbanized, people are more condensed, but the need for live chickens are very high. Similarly, when we look at Limpopo, you look at Aldays, Taaibosch, the Blouberg municipality region, these are smaller scale farmers, and if we scale them as farmers, we need to look at bigger areas like Polokwane and Musina. This is where logistical planning as part of your marketing becomes crucial. And you need to understand. So those 4 P's are vital for you to understand within your marketing time frame. So what is my product or service? Is what is the price that I can charge for my product or service? How do I promote my product and service successfully? And where do I sell it once I've promoted it successfully at different stages of my business? So if you go there to page 6, we again talk about the 4 P's of marketing in your diagram. So product, key aspects, I spoke about the key aspects. I spoke about the key aspects of price, place, and promotion. The role of supply and demand in marketing. Economic theory revolves around choices. Consumers choose which product to buy, while producers decide how to produce, including quantity and quality. These choices shape the supply and demand for the product. Okay, so in your environment, if you're in a small scale environment, you are the farmer and the seller. There's no intermediary that buys from you and sells to the market. This might happen when you grow significantly to 5 or 10,000 chickens and you become a wholesaler of chickens, for example. But if you look at your role currently, if you're a small scale farmer, you manage the operational side of the business and the financial side of the business. You manage the marketing side of the business, and you are selling your product until such a time that you start employing people to manage the mediocre tasks in your business, and you start thinking about building your business and scaling your business beyond where you currently are. You are responsible for that. So to take advantage of demand in your market, which in South Africa and in Africa as a whole, there's a huge demand for poultry and poultry products. In order to take advantage of this demand, you need to bring the supply. But not only bring the supply, you also need to understand how to raise your chickens, how to run your operations, how to run your finances, how to reinvest in your business, how to ensure that you promote your product correctly, the 4 P's of marketing. You need to promote and to sell them effectively. You need to understand, as you grow as a business owner and as you grow as a farmer, you also need to understand, if I grow my business to X mark, then I would need to start looking for expansion of places that I sell my product. I need to look for partnerships. I might want to become a wholesaler. These are different things we need to look at when we want to grow our business and not just stay the same. And when we think about a subsistence farmer, this is where we really need to play a pivotal role in how to now go from subsistence to a for-profit farmer, to a small-scale farmer, and to a commercial farmer. And this takes a lot of data, a lot of management, and a lot of building of experience over time as you grow your business to ensure you do it successfully and you can do within the framework of what already exists the right stuff for your business. So on page 7, you will see there we've got a supply, demand, and a price and profit column there. Okay, so what I just explained to you is, let me explain that table to you as well. If there's high demand, low supply, the price increases. If there's high supply, low demand, price decreases. It's as simple as that. Then there's other things that also I've spoken about is crucial to ensure you can get the correct price for your product, which is your quality, which is your consistency, which is your quantity as well. You need to ensure that those are also right. But the major contributor to your demand of the price of your product will be the demand and the supply. So if you want to take advantage of areas in your communities where there's low supply of, for example, cabbage or chickens, you need to ensure that you produce at the right time, that you sell at the right time, that you promote, to take advantage of the high demand and low supply so that you can increase your profits in your business and use that increases to further capitalize and grow your business, to further look at the service the demand. Okay, so that's very important there on page 7 of our manual. We also, in your training manual, you'll see that in page 8, we've given you a lot of mentorship tips and laws and interesting reads that you can go and look at, to look at different laws that governs business. Because you also need to understand, today you farm 100 chickens in your backyard, but you won't be able to farm 1,000 or 5,000 in your backyard. There's certain laws you have to abide to. So you'll see on page 8, there's a whole list of laws that we have listed there and tips for you that we've listed there. You will also find on page 9, there's some activities that you can do as well. So on page 10, let's go into lesson 2. Okay, marketing and farming practice. Okay, value-driven production versus demand production. So there's 2 types of farming businesses and how to market your product. The first one is demand-driven production, okay? And the second one is value-driven production. So in simple terms on page 10, if you're a demand-driven producer, you produce, you understand that there's a demand for your product and you produce in accordance to that demand. If you are a value-driven farmer, you've got a high-value item like saffron, or something like that, that is a value-driven production farming company. So in that case, there's always availability, there's always a market for your product because there's extremely low supply in value-driven production. The majority of small-scale farmers, 95% of them, work in the demand-driven production. And so we should, because all of the businesses start with demand-driven production in their farming operations, because it will be stupid if you don't do that, because if you've got a demand in your neighbors, in your community, you will save so much logistical cost money so that you can grow your business faster by supplying your immediate communities with the products, okay, that you can reinvest and grow, and then go to a place where you are a value-driven production farmer. Okay, so very important there, you must just check on page 10. Okay, so there in the middle of page 10, you will see the risk of production-driven agriculture. Okay, so this is the majority of small-scale farmers. They are production-driven farmers. Okay, all risk to the farmer. The farmer might produce a crop based on a predicted market trend that does not realize. So what does this mean? Okay, so simply it means that you are now starting your chicken farm or your spinach farm with the anticipation that you would sell 200 because of the demand. You've done all the research, you've done everything that you could because of the demand that now exists for that chicken in 6 weeks of 200, or for your spinach in 2-3 months of 10,000. Okay, now you start production. So you're actually investing in that business before you actually can see the return, but you make a best guess based on the information you have gathered and the data you've gathered. But anything can happen. Now, at the end of the cycle of your produce or your livestock, you get to a point where now you were a production driven, and now all of a sudden, 200 chickens don't sell, or there's a change in the market, or for example, your Boxer or Save More have a huge markdown on chickens because their chickens are getting too old. The retailers that have a huge reduction. So all of a sudden, what happens? You don't sell 200 chickens. So that is one of the risks to the farmer that you need to understand. The second one is the same situation will develop if many farmers have produced along the same forecasted trend. So again, I spoke about the Boxer, Pick and Pay type large retail store example. They have a huge discount on chicken product. At the same time, it's the end of your 6 weeks, there will be a risk to you. But on the other hand, let's say, for example, now you are a producer of 200 or 300 chickens per cycle, and a larger scale producer enters your market with 5,000 chickens, or multiple small farms opens up, and the demand is not big enough for all of them, your price will have to decrease as well. So even though you took sort of at a proper marketing strategy, you ensured that you produce for the market demand, things can still go wrong. So you continuously need to adapt to what can go wrong. And in the event of that risk occur, how do you mitigate it immediately and effectively? Okay, a risk to the environment. A farmer might try to overproduce due to perceived high market demand. Okay, so this happens quite often in chickens, is now you understand the demand. Now, your first 6 weeks, okay, you didn't face the risk of a retailer reducing their chicken products. So you actually sold your 200 to 300 chickens at a high value, and you made a lot of profit. Now, you use the same infrastructure, but because it was so easy to sell it, you now want to put 600 chickens in. You want to double the volume of chickens you do. Now you get to that market, but you were actually already at the ceiling of the market. But now you have all these additional chickens. That will be problematic as well. So that's a risk to consider as well. So my suggestion would be, before you grow your business, get a full hang of your market, okay, within your current sales cycle for at least 3 or 4 to 6 consecutive months before you are looking to make massive investments in growing your environment. That will give you the correct data and information to make a calculated risk, not just a risk for the sake of taking a risk. Okay, so if we go there to page 11, okay, so what is the advantages of a demand-driven farmer? This is 99%, 95-99% of small-scale producers. They are demand-driven agricultural farmers, okay? That's what they produce. They produce based on the demand of their immediate and a little bit further environment of their community and extended community. Okay, so you can meet the demands. If you're a local producer and there's a local customer, you can meet the demands. Okay, they will buy again if your product is at a good price and in a good quality. Your immediate customer will buy again from you. Okay, and they might be prepared to pay higher prices. You've got a good quality product, and because you in actual fact you satisfy the customer that they've paid an amount for a quality product from a farmer that they know in their community, which is really nice. Secondly, you will have short turnaround times. So if you plan and promote correctly, you'll have short turnaround times. In other words, in 6 weeks, if you started marketing and promoting a product at week 3 successfully, you will sell out and you can immediately start your cycle again, which is really key because then you can do more cycles a year. Even though it might be the same amount per cycle, but you can do an additional cycle or 2 per year. Majority small-scale farmers do only 5 to 7 cycles, but you can, in actual fact, do 8 to 9 cycles if you really operationally manage your business correctly. You promote your product successfully, and you satisfy your customers. Okay, you can have a high quality product in your community. I think that's such an awesome idea to think about, is having a quality product at an affordable price in your community. That is such a great service you would do for your community. And if you grow your business and you start employing people from your community, the community impact you can make is huge and it's massive. And you can also do stuff like teach kids about successful farming, etc. And as such, build a generation of successful, sustainable, and scalable farmers. So in your market, you've got a short turnaround time, you've got high quality produce, you can charge higher prices. Why can you charge higher prices? You sell into your community, especially when there's not a retailer nearby. You can charge more because people don't have to travel to go and buy their chicken for far distances. But also they know you. So if you have got a good reputation, you can also charge higher prices. Okay, so and if you charge higher prices, you will have higher profit margins, especially when there's a high demand and low supply in your area. Okay, the importance of product quality. So as I say, and I always say this to farmers wherever I go. Okay, if you have a lot of quantity, if you start with a lot of quantity, you'll probably never have quality. But if you start with small amounts and get your quality right, you could always build to quantity. People will keep coming back if you've got a quality product. You will never ever build a business, a small scale to medium to sub and full commercial, if you do not have a quality product. Reputation in business is everything, and you need to ensure that the quality of your product is at the highest possible standard. You need to be proud of it. You need to be passionate about it. It's not just taking care of chickens to sell them. It is taking care of your brand. It's taking care of your business. Every decision that you make should be made in the best possible way for your business. Okay, if your product is high quality, you can charge a higher price. If your product is a high quality, you can target a more discerning market segment. If your product is a high quality, you will always find that your demand exceeds your supply. So those 3 points are extremely difficult, and we definitely need to in-depth look at it on page 11 of our marketing, sales, and entrepreneurship training manual. On page 12, again, there's some activities that you'll have to do in your manual that you'll have to complete to ensure you've got a full understanding. Once again, talk to us if you don't, and then we can assist you throughout with mentorship. Okay, lesson 3. Let's jump to lesson 3, guys. Page 13. Okay, here we talk a little bit more about the principles of supply and demand. Now, like I've explained to you, you need to understand that there's a demand for what you want to build your business on, your farm on, in your immediate and just a little bit extended community, to ensure that you are farming the correct product or produce. Okay, so that is crucial, because the higher the demand and lower the supply, the more value your product will have. But there's also other things that ultimately, or there's things that ultimately defines the demand of your product. Now, you'll see there on page 13, climatic conditions. So So think about climatic conditions. So, for example, if in Gauteng and the northwest in South Africa, it's got nice fertile land to plant cabbages. Okay? Cabbages will be less expensive because there'll be a lot of cabbages in Gauteng and in the northwest than it would be, for example, in the Limpopo provinces. Okay? And that is what calamities is. It's drier in Limpopo, sort of the bushveld. So there's different commodities that works extremely well, like even cattle in the Limpopo province. But in other provinces, vegetables work well. So you're going to pay in Limpopo more for a cabbage than, for example, in the northwest, because it's drier and in that environment. And it's also a lot hotter in Limpopo versus, for example, Gauteng. The rainfall also differs in the different regions. So that's when we talk about climatic conditions, okay, what that influences product demand, okay. The economic conditions or the economy also influences supply and demand of a product. In other words, if people don't have money, they can't buy the product from you. So you need to understand that your product, okay, is a necessity. Okay, if your food product or your agricultural produce is of a necessity to your community, they will have to purchase it from you. So that's very nice when you do sort of chicken farming and vegetable farming, because it's really a big necessity in communities across Africa. Okay, but the economic conditions of each community differs, and it differs vastly. So you need to understand your community's economic conditions. When do they get a salary paid? When do they get a grant? When do they get additional money? Those are things you need to understand as a business owner, so that you can not only produce on demand, but you can also mitigate any risk that you might have, and then ensure that you fulfill that demand at the right time so that you can increase your prices. Okay, shifts in demand. So shifts in demand will always happen. I've spoken about shifts in demand in the previous lessons in Module 1 now, but more shifts in demands will occur. Think something like in the northwest and in Gauteng, heavy rains disrupts vegetable farming, cabbage farming. Okay, the price will increase everywhere else, including in those regions, because there's a low supply of that product. But think about now again in Limpopo, price will automatically increase there, even beyond what it was. Okay, so there might be a shift in demand, okay, or a shift in supply. So a shift in demand would mean that now all of a sudden, people only want to buy free-range eggs and not caged eggs coming from cage production in layers. Now all of a sudden, it's a different, it's a shift in demand, and a shift in demand that you always need to keep an eye on. These are extremely important things that you need to look at. You need to look how the shifts within your demand to ensure that you can keep on fulfilling a demand with your supply, keep being profitable, and keep growing your business. Okay, population growth is something that will also affect supply and demand. So what do I mean? If population are growing in a particular area, there's higher demand of products. You just need to ensure that your product fulfills the higher demand as there's population growth. Okay? And that is extremely important for you as a business person to understand. Okay? And then production restraints. So think about it. There's not really any sort of corn or maize or grain growth in Gauteng, but there is in the Free State, for example, a lot of it. So in Gauteng, we've got a much less space to produce. So we produce high value crops or cash crops in Gauteng than, for example, in the Free State where grain is produced. So those are all, those on page 13 is principle of supply demands, and that will affect supply and demand of your product, and something that you need to give so much attention to. Okay, if we look at page 14, we're looking at other things like organic produce. I spoke about the free-range egg. Now, if you have a free-range egg, it sells for a higher value than a than a normal sort of battery cage system egg, but you will probably be able in that same space to get a lot less free-range eggs than you would get in a battery cage. Okay, so that we need to look at. And again, in produce, the same organic banana is more expensive than a just normal banana. Okay, those are things to consider. Okay, the effect of changing prices on production. Okay, so there's different ways. I want to talk about chickens now, and it's same for vegetables. Okay, there's different sort of sales tactics that you will have throughout.